Here are the top stories for today, January 19, 2022. The Labor Department makes it clear workers are exempted from the no vaccination, no ride policy, but says the requirement for those unvaccinated to present a negative COVID-19 test results to employers stays. Areas outside Metro Manila are now seeing an upward trend in COVID-19 cases. But the Health Department says most cases logged in January are either mild or moderate. There is no time left for the current Congress to tackle charter change. A lawmaker says the ball is now with the next Congress, which will be elected in the May polls. And faith in small pieces, these figurines of saints and religious icons prove that its owner's devotion is bigger than any adversity. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Department of Labor and Employment clarifies that unvaccinated or partially vaccinated workers in essential industries are exempt from the no vax, no ride policy. This after the policy created confusion among commuters going to their workplace. In a briefing, Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III urged agencies implementing the policy to start a massive information drive to avoid confusion among the public. He said unvaccinated workers are allowed to report to work, but they have to present a negative RT-PCR test as required by employers. For its part, the Department of Transportation says unvaccinated individuals must present proof that they work in essential industries allowed in areas under Alert Level 3. They are to present proof such as a company ID or certificate of employment instead of a vaccination card. Also exempted to the no vax, no ride policy are those with medical conditions that prevent full vaccination and persons who will procure essential goods and services. More government programs are underway to temper the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, especially for those who are displaced from their jobs or those whose working hours or days have been reduced because of the flexible working arrangement. The details from Marita Mawahe.
The Department of Labor and Employment has implemented measures to mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Among this is a COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program or CAMP, which has a 1 billion peso allotment. The program aims to provide a one-time 5,000 pesos financial assistance for workers in the formal sector. On top of this, the department has also allocated about 120 million pesos for the implementation of the TUPAD Emergency Employment Program. Moreover, DOLE also allocated 50 million pesos for emergency employment in typhoon-stricken areas. In Metro Manila, DOLE has set aside another 50 million pesos under the CAMP program, as about 100 to 200,000 are expected to be displaced due to the imposition of Alert Level 3. Meanwhile, the government aims to bring down the unemployment rate close to pre-pandemic level of around 5 to 5.5% this year. Last year, the Task Force Group on Economic Recovery National Employment Recovery Strategy was created to address job shedding across different industries due to adverse impact of COVID-19. From January to November 2021, the task force has contributed some 913,498 in job generation. This includes the 162,861 jobs created through DOLE's initiative, 11,201 jobs under the Department of Transportation's Service Contracting Program, some 691,071 jobs through DPWH Build program, 2,805 jobs through the DENR, some 1,629 jobs at the DOST, and some 43,931 jobs under the DTI's Self-Employment and Entrepreneurship Program. This is Marita Mawahe for the PNA Newsroom.
Limited face-to-face classes will resume in areas under alert levels 1 and 2 next month. President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the recommendation of the Department of Education, provided it will only be allowed with concurrence of local government units or LGUs and consent of parents and their stakeholders.
Presented by Secretary Briones ang kanilang recommendation to the President is to allow the DepEd together with DOH to expand yung face-to-face classes, lalong-lalo na sa mga naka-alert level 2, subject to number 1, yung support ng LGU. Number 2, may pahintulot din po sa mga magulang at sa mga stakeholders ng eskwelahan. So with no objection, kumbaga, walang objection si Pangulo doon.
The Department of Health, or DOH, has noted an upward trend in COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila's neighboring provinces of Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara says that from 153 cases on the first week of December, it went up to 1,400 cases towards the end of the month. Meantime, Metro Manila logged a steep increase in hospital admissions with 60% hospital bed utilization and 58% intensive care unit bed utilization. Vergara says about 75% of COVID-19 cases recorded this month are mild and moderate. She says only 13% of the cases are asymptomatic and 12% are severe and in critical condition. Meanwhile, DOH Epidemiology Bureau Director Althea de Guzman says a total of 15 areas in the National Capital Region have logged cases of the highly transmissible Omicron variant. During a congressional briefing, de Guzman says the increased mobility and reduced adherence to minimum public health standards, as well as the delays in detection and isolation of cases, contributed to the spike of infections. She, however, did not identify which NCR areas registered Omicron cases. Malacanang says vaccine recipients will have to pre-register before arriving at participating drugstores for their COVID-19 booster shots. The pilot plot rollout of COVID-19 vaccination in select pharmacies and clinics is set tomorrow, January 20, and on January 21st. Acting presidential spokesperson, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles says pre-registration must be required to prevent crowding in the area. Nograles said each of the 7 participating drugstores will be provided with an initial 500 doses of COVID-19 vaccines per week, or a total of 3,500 doses. The government is aiming to fully vaccinate 77 million Filipinos, including voters, by the first quarter of 2022 to help protect them against severe disease and death from the virus. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, says the delays and cancellations of the flights in the past few weeks are due to the rising number of COVID-19 cases among their employees. So far, CAAP says about 300 employees have tested positive since January 1st. CAAP Chief of Staff Danjun Lucas says many who tested positive and who were exposed to COVID-positive individuals are air traffic controllers. Some of the CAAP employees have already recovered, some have already finished their quarantine period, and at least 40% are working from home.
So nagkaroon po talaga ng pagbaba ng manpower at ang mga nagseserbisyo sa ating mga airlines. Kaya kung inyo pong nabalitaan at alam naman po natin nung mga nakaraang linggo po, marami po talagang flights, kung hindi man po nasuspend, marami po ang na-delay at marami po ang na-cancel. Ang kadahilanan po nun ay ang kakulangan po ngayon ng mga nagsiserbisyong piloto, cabin crew, ground handlers at pati na rin po ang mga security personnel sa ating mga paliparan. Pasalamat po kami sa pagkakataong binigay ng IATF na mapakinggan po ang hinaing ng aviation sector, lalong-lalo na po ng ating mga colleagues sa airline industry. Ikliin ang isolation at quarantine protocols ng ating mga airline industry.
Meanwhile, CAAP says their no vax, no ride policy was well received by air passengers.
Maganda naman po ang naging pagtanggap ng ating mga mananakay sa unang araw ng implementasyon ng no vaccination, no ride policy sa ating mga paliparan. Sa pagpasok pa lang po ng ating mga air passengers sa ating mga paliparan at mga facilities ng Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, pati na rin po ng Ninoy Aquino International Airport, nagkakaroon na po ang ating security ng paghingi ng mga katibayan na sila ay fully vaccinated, kung hindi man po na sila ay kasama sa mga exemption na nasasaad sa department order ng kagawaran ng transportasyon. Bago po nila makuha ang kanilang mga boarding pass at ang kanilang mga ticket, magkakaroon po uli ng pagsisiyasat ang ating mga colleague from the airline sector para masiguro na ang mga makakasakay lang po, kung hindi po exempted, ay ang mga fully vaccinated ating mananakay.
About 100 passengers bound for Zamboanga were stranded at the North Harbor Terminal 4 due to the no vaccination, no ride policy. Also barred from boarding are those without negative RT-PCR test results.
Ang naging problema naman po natin kasi pagdating po sa Zamboanga, bagamat meron na pong vaccination card, ay nire-require po ng LGU na ang mga dumadating po sa Zamboanga ay kailangan merong negative RT-PCR result. At yung mga dumating po sa atin na mga sasakay ay wala pong negative RT-PCR result, na mga patungo po sa Zamboanga. So hindi po sila pinasakay. So katulad po ng nasabi na namin sa mga nakaraan, bago po tayo bumiyahe, siguraduhin lamang po natin na alam po natin yung mga regulasyon po ng mga LGU na pupuntahan natin dahil may kanya-kanya pa rin po silang requirement at makipag-ugnayan po tayo sa mga LGU, hindi lamang po doon sa social media pages po nila, kundi po magtawag po siguro tayo para sigurado po tayong hindi magkakaroon po ng aberya sa biyahe natin.
Still ahead, more imported fish for the Philippines as the local supply is hit by the onslaught of Typhoon Odette. And not even the House of Representatives is spared from the COVID-19 surge, prompting it to suspend sessions. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The Department of Agriculture plans to import 60,000 metric tons of fish following the damage caused by Typhoon Odette to local fisheries last year. Agriculture Secretary William Dar announced on Tuesday the signing of the Certificate of Necessity to Import after the assessment showed significant damage and reduced fish production, especially galunggong, sardines, and mackerel. Dar said they are working to remedy the supply deficiency of 119,000 metric tons of fish for the first quarter of 2022. The import will help meet the food demand for the first 3 months of the year. The fisheries sector incurred some 4 billion pesos in total value loss and damage after Odette lashed the country on December 16 and 17, 2021. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, will seek a court order for the transfer of self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa to a more secure detention center following his foiled escape on January 13. Espinosa nearly bolted out of the National Bureau of Investigation's holding facility with two others if not for the timely discovery of their supposed escape route. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, however, said they need commitment orders from the courts where Espinosa's cases are being tried. Ordinarily, individuals awaiting completion of their trials are detained in facilities run by the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. A Makati court dropped one of the charges against Espinosa and his three co-accused in December last year, but they are still facing cases in other parts of the country. The Bacolod City Government Center was closed Tuesday afternoon to give way for disinfection. Engineer Amy Tentia, building administrator of BCGC, said the entire building was sealed off starting 4 p.m. This after several department heads reported that some of their employees are not feeling well. During the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government center was placed on lockdown several times after some city government employees were infected by the virus. And in Zamboanga del Sur, the camp of the 1st Infantry Tabak Division, the Philippine Army's premier command, has been placed on lockdown as 134 personnel were infected with COVID-19. Major General Generoso Ponyo, the division commander, placed their main camp Cesar Sangan headquarters in Barangay Upper Pulacan, Labangan on lockdown effective Monday. Despite the lockdown, they still receive visitors but are required to undergo the antigen test before being allowed entry into the camp. Meanwhile, the Teresita L. Halandoni Provincial Hospital in Silay City, Negros Occidental, has suspended some of its outpatient services starting this week after some of its frontliners were hit by COVID-19. Admissions were also limited to emergency cases. As of January 17, about 21 hospital staff have been affected, including 7 who tested positive. The Corazon Locsin Montelibano Memorial Regional Hospital in Bacolod City is also limiting services indefinitely to extreme emergency cases due to limited manpower. Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez on Tuesday appealed to the House of Representatives to leave the issue of charter change or cha-cha to the next Congress. Rodriguez made the appeal after the chamber referred resolution of both houses number 7 to its Committee on Constitutional Amendments. The lawmaker said they have no more time to tackle cha-cha proposals before the House adjourns for the election campaign on February 5. He said if they were to pursue cha-cha, then they would have to prioritize it along with COVID-19 pandemic response measures. He further noted that the next president should indicate early to his allies in Congress what he would want them to do with cha-cha. RBH number 7, authored by Pampanga Representative Aurelio Gonzalez Jr., proposes that the president's term of offices be fixed at 5 years with 1 re-election instead of the present 6 years without re-election. The appeal comes as the House suspended its plenary sessions until January 24 because of the uptick in COVID-19 cases in the country. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco said since the start of the year, over 70 House members and employers have contracted the disease. Many others are undergoing quarantine or self-isolation after showing symptoms or having close contact with people who tested positive for COVID-19. He, however, assured that the House continues to fulfill its duty while taking necessary measures to keep its members and employees safe. The construction of a 380-kilometer Philippine National Railways route is starting soon, following the awarding of a 142 billion peso rail contract to a Chinese joint venture. The contract was signed on Monday by Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade and representatives of the China Railway Group Limited, China Railway No. 3 Engineering Group Company Limited, and China Railway Engineering Consulting Group Company Limited, or CREC JV. Aside from the railway, the project will include 23 stations, 230 bridges, 10 passenger tunnels, and a 70-hectare depot in San Pablo, Laguna. The construction will run from Barangay Banlik in Calambay, Laguna to Daraga, Albay. Once operational, travel time will be shortened to 4 hours from the usual 12 hours and will serve 14.6 million passengers yearly. Chinese ambassador to the Philippines Wang Xilian said the project will be the fastest and longest railway segment so far in the Philippines and another milestone for the relationship between the Philippines and China. Up next, Indonesia is one step closer to getting a new capital. And we tell you how these pocket-sized saint figurines spell great faith and devotion. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns. Two minors suspected of being members of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army have been rescued by government troops in Gihulngan City, Negros Oriental. The two minors were rescued during an encounter with NPA members by soldier from the Army's 62nd Infantry Battalion. The two were among the four suspected NPA members who were captured at Sitio Manlibud in Barangay Sandayao on January 15. Brigadier General Inocencio Pasaporte, commander of the 303rd Infantry Brigade, said that the minors were used as runners and were not part of the regular armed group. After being treated for their slight injuries, the minors are now with the Gihulngan City Social Welfare and Development Office. Pasaporte advised parents to monitor their children's activities to shield them against NPA recruitment. In news overseas, Indonesia's parliament has passed a bill to relocate the nation's capital from Jakarta to East Kalimantan province in Borneo. The new capital will be named Nusantara, a Javanese name for the Indonesian archipelago chosen by President Joko Widodo. Planning Minister Suharto Mono Arfa said the new capital city acts as a symbol of national identity with a central function as well as a new and environment-friendly economic center. The government will spend $34 billion for its construction. Jakarta is one of the world's most densely populated cities, home to more than 10 million people. It was declared the de facto capital city on August 17, 1945, after Indonesia declared independence. The city is not only deemed overcrowded, but it is also sinking due to rising sea levels and over-extraction of groundwater. In sports, the Premier Boxing Champions, or PBC, has named Nonito Donaire Jr. as a Fighter of the Year for 2021. The 39-year-old Donaire edged fellow fighter super bantamweight Stephen Fulton, 3-division titleist Jerafonte Davis, and 2-time super middleweight champ David Benavides for the title. He got 47.6% of the total fan votes conducted through Twitter and YouTube. Donaire shocked the world last May by knocking out Nordine Ubali to become the oldest reigning world bantamweight champion. Donaire successfully defended his WBC bantamweight belt against fellow Filipino Raymark Gabalio last month and is now at 42 wins and 6 losses with 28 knockouts. PBC, organized by renowned boxing manager Al Hyman, has successfully held live boxing events on national television, including the historic Donaire Ubali bout. A new attraction for people to enjoy amid the pandemic will soon open at the Paway Lake in Ilocos Norte. The Paway Lake Water Park, located near the Malacañang of the North, is ready to entertain visitors for its soft opening on Saturday. The Ilocos Norte Tourism Office said the opening of the floating playground will be strictly regulated to ensure that the health and safety of visitors will not be compromised. Online booking is now open at the playground's website for those who want to avail of the early bird promo at 349 pesos per person. Governor Matthew Joseph Manotoc said as most residents are now vaccinated, there is no reason to panic or overreact even with the presence of the Omicron variant. Ilocos Norte has the highest vaccination coverage in Region 1 for fully jabbed individuals at 74.2%. Devotion to the Catholic faith can be shown in different ways, especially with a pandemic limiting religious traditions and activities. Several netizens are showing their faith through their collection of chibi or small-sized versions of Catholic saints. More on this from Chris Mundo.
Karen Fontillas once saw an image of a tiny Santo Niño de Cebu on Facebook. She instantly wanted one for her brother, who collected sacred images of the child Jesus. Little did she know that these child-sized saints would soon earn a special space in her own home. Fontillas, who hails from Zambales, currently has over 100 Chibi Saints inside her room. Each Chibi Saint reminds her of the religious sites she and her family visited when her mother was still alive. For her, Chibi Saints serve as reminders of her faith and devotion. Patricia Gail Patawaran from Pampanga has 16 Chibi versions of the Virgin Mary, as well as those of the Holy Family. Her father, Roberto, even built her a house-shaped shelf to make sure all of them have a chance to shine. Patricia said her Chibi Marian collection spurs in her a desire to serve the church and support businesses producing them. Baguio City-based Elizabeth Rasalan meanwhile says Chibi Saints keep her feeling youthful because they spark so much joy in her heart. Although she only started collecting them in April last year, she now has 37 Chibi Saints. The Catholic Church has long been using sacred images to remember the example of models of the Catholic faith. Father Jojo Zerudo, parish priest at the St. Joseph the Worker Parish and minister in the catechetical ministry of the Diocese of Cubao, said the faithful needs to be constantly reminded of their spiritual family. Saints may not have been perfect people, but Father Zerudo said that all saints share a common attribute: childlike humility. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Labor Department makes it clear workers are exempted from the no vaccination, no ride policy, but says the requirement for those unvaccinated to present a negative COVID-19 test results to employers stays. Areas outside Metro Manila are now seeing an upward trend in COVID-19 cases, but the Health Department says most cases logged in January are either mild or moderate. There is no time left for the current Congress to tackle charter change. A lawmaker says the ball is now with the next Congress, which will be elected in the May polls. And faith in small pieces, these figurines of saints and religious icons prove that its owner's devotion is bigger than any adversity. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.